Hello, my name is Chris Snipes, and you are listening to The Melt. A lot of what The Melt has been about is having the conversations that we might be hesitant to have with our friends and family about things that perhaps someone with more mainstream leanings might consider to be a bit eccentric, about topics that have been stigmatized as being woo-woo or relegated to the ambiguous realm of conspiracy theory. I also think that it's pertinent to bring back the importance of first-hand experiences and to provide a forum where people feel as if it's okay to speculate about things and that are encouraged to question and have an open mind. But I also want to have conversations with people who have found some effective and powerful tools for helping others to expand their sense of self and to evolve in ways that improve their lives and, therefore, the lives of those around them. Many of these tools simply help us to perceive reality as lucidly as is possible and to be able to utilize this awareness to navigate within it as embodied positivity in order that this may reflect outwardly to contribute to making the world a better place. Today's guest, Lynne Forrest, specializes in equipping people to deal with victim consciousness, which there is a surplus currently in modern society. 10 years ago, she wrote a wonderful book called Beyond Victim Consciousness, but I just recently came across her being interviewed on Cynthia Sue Larson's podcast and felt compelled to ask her to be a guest on The Melt. The resulting interview is wisdom-dense. There are so many truthful things laid out in this interview that I know that I'll be re-listening to it frequently. I started off the conversation by asking her what brought her to write a book about victim consciousness.
Well, I'll tell you the story about how that happened, actually. I was just thinking, do I want to tell the whole story? I'll just tell you briefly that I had been exposed to the what was called the drama triangle, Stephen Karpman's triangle, back in the early 70s. And I was working for a health maintenance organization and was in a social work sort of group counseling role and began to use that triangle and began to see how powerful it was in people's lives and that sort of thing. And then I continued to work with it with people over the years and just acquired a whole lot of information about it. I learned a lot about it in watching people play it out in the laboratories of their life, me getting to sort of be the one who they would come and share it with. And so I was gathering. And there came a day where I just thought, you know what? I'm going to write down everything. I just got my website. This was like 15 or 20 years ago, first time I'd ever gone online. And I decided that I would write down everything I could remember about the victim triangle. And I did. I wrote it down, and it became what's called The Faces of Victim, an article on my webpage. And it immediately got like attention all over. People were like, oh my gosh, resonating with it. And so my good friend and tech guru said to me, Lynne, you need to write a little ebook about how to get off of it. You've written all about it. You've described it. Now tell people how to get off.
I like it.
And that's how the book came. What started out as an ebook, it was just going to be this little thing. It wasn't going to have to be turned into a 3-year process of really developing and since writing it has been so helpful for me. I don't know how helpful it's been for others, but it has been immensely helpful for me because it helped me really describe and condense the information in a way that has become a powerful process that I now call the reality formula. And the reality formula is the formula about what all minds do, whether we're in victim consciousness or not. And that is this. The reality formula says that when we believe a thought, two things automatically happen. Now, this comes from years of observing it. The first thing is that we feel as if what we believe is true. We have all the feelings that go with that belief. If I believe you're dangerous, then I'm going to feel afraid of you. I'm going to feel the feelings that match the belief. Thoughts create an emotional reaction, response, emotion, energy, and motion. So then the second thing that will happen is I'll begin to act as if what I believe is true. So when I believe a thought, I will feel and act, react, become the character of, become the part of the person who usually it's what I need to do to protect myself, believing what I believe. So I will act as if that's true. When we believe what we think, we feel and act as if it's true, and we turn into someone who actually invites the world around us to prove us right. So if I start treating you out of fear, if I start reacting to you, I'm paranoid around you, I'm distrustful, I don't self-disclose, I might say things that I'm sort of checking you out constantly. So what are you going to see? You're going to see someone who you can't trust, probably. It's
Sure.
sort of like, what's going on with her? And so you're going to say something or do something that I can then go, see, I knew he was not a safe person. I knew he was dangerous. So this is what we're doing. We're walking around projecting our beliefs out on the world and then feeling and acting them into giving us the evidence that proves we're right about whatever it is we believe. You can find evidence for just anything you want to believe. The internet's a fertile ground for that. You can look up whatever on two sides of whatever coin and find ample evidence that will be convincing, that will give you the proof. We're all walking around doing this. So that reality formula is what all minds do. And when we learn how it is we're doing it with the unhappy story, we all have one. We all have an unhappy story that we're projecting out there on the world, that we then get to see reflected back to us. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. There's a purpose. We come in set up. We come in to experience the setup of taking on an unhappy story, some kind of limiting, reductive version of who we call me. It can be a belief system, a set of core beliefs that say things like, I just can't get it right, or I'm not lovable, or the world is dangerous, or I'll never make it. I don't have what it takes to succeed. Whatever it is I'm believing, I'm going to feel and act into proving me right. And when we begin to recognize that that's what we're doing, then we can actually use the tools of creating that story to recreate, redirect that energy, and recreate, become co-creators with that which we are sourced by, that which is the reality of who we are. Because it's not this me that you see. It's not the story Lynne. It's not the story about Lynne that is who I am. Although we have believed it so long that we've blindly accepted and just believe this is just the way we are. This is what we tell ourselves. It's just the way I am. I can't. Yeah. It's the story we've married. And there is another aspect of us that is so much bigger than what you can see here. And our goal, and the whole reason we're having this journey is so, in my opinion, is so that we can find that remembrance. We can reconnect with who it is that we are in reality and totality. And and we learn how to use the tools of co-creating through beginning to unwind how we are creating the story we're believing and redecide a new story, recreate a new story. So that's just to give you sort of an introduction of the work that I do with people. And that's what we do. I take them from the story to what it is, what's the reality about who you are versus who you're believing.
So, what are some ways that people can go into situations without those preconceptions, without this idea that a particular thing is going to take place?
I have a set of guiding principles. I call them the guiding principles of reality. And these are based on ancient precepts that have been around since the very beginning, and they are found in every body of relevance and truth, whether it's philosophy or religion or whatever. You will find over and over again these principles, and they are constructs about how manifestation happens, how we create our reality. That's what they are. They're the understanding of what we're all doing. And again, just like the reality formula is one of those precepts. When you believe what you think, you will feel and act as if it's true, and thereby you will become the person who invites the evidence. That's one of the guiding principles. But there are 9 others, and they range from understanding that we are vibrational in nature, that thoughts are electromagnetic, and that we project them out, and through the emotional tone, through the feeling, that which is the emotional tone of that belief, that's the vibrational quality of our being. We project that out. It's like you can walk in a room and say, that person is really angry. You don't know them. You've never met them. How do you know that? Well, you're picking up their vibe. You're picking up their emotional tone. And we're doing this all the time with one another and with ourselves, believing what we believe. So when the question you asked was how can we use I'm saying to you that knowing those truths, knowing what those guidelines are, those structures for how the mind works, allows us then to begin to recognize when we are creating a fantasy, a low frequency story, and believe in it, because we're going to prove whatever we believe, or create a new one. And so, for instance, another one of the guiding principles says that the world is a mirror, that what I see out there and judge, by the way, judgment and all the things that we think of as things we should not do. We shouldn't be so judgmental. We shouldn't be so narrow focused or judgmental. Let's just use that one for a minute. Really, in reality, we all are judgmental. That's how we know we should be, because we are. And so then the better question to ask is, how can I use that for me instead of against me? And the way judgment is supposed to work, the way it is a tool for manifestation, is it points to what it is I'm believing by finding it out there and judging it. The thing where I'm out of harmony with myself, a judgment I'm holding against me. Maybe I have a judgment about being controlling. I'm afraid I'm just too controlling. I've always been told I'm bossy and controlling, and maybe it's true, and I believe that really about me, that I'm too controlling. And so I'm going to hate controlling people. They're going to be the ones I point at and go, you are so controlling. Well, that judgment is actually helping me find where it is I'm standing in judgment of me. That's where I'm out of alignment with the truth about who I am. Mm-hmm. So judgment's not a problem; it's a tool. But when I believe when I believe my judgments and think that you really are that, rather than the world as a mirror. When I understand it's a mirror, then I look here and I use it as a tool for refining my consciousness, pulling up to the light what it is I'm believing that's getting in the way, standing in the way of me remembering the truth about me, which is that I come from love, because there's only love or fear. So all the feelings that, anger, resentment, that it's, you can think of it as either high frequency tonality, and emotional tone, which brings a sense of love, peace, congruence, satisfaction, joy. The feelings that bring a sense of connection, they're lighter, and then there's the dense, heavy ones. And the fear is always based on a sense of separation. It's standing back and seeing a problem. Fear-based, that tonality is always about, and that's victim consciousness, is what I call that state of mind. Victim consciousness simply says this: when I believe that what's outside of me is the cause of my unhappiness, it's because speak to me like I needed you to, or you should have done this and you didn't, or I can't get what I need, or people are getting in my way, or life is not treating me, whatever. When I think that the world is doing it to me, I'm in victim consciousness. And what happens when we go into victim consciousness is that we're seeing it's a problem mentality. It's where we're focused on problems and finding the problem. And that goes back to the caveman mentality of, like, I need to look for a problem. Where is the saber-toothed tiger that's going to attack me? Where is it? Where am I going to? So I need to be, because what I'm believing in victim consciousness is that I am separate from that which I am. So, and we come here to experience that sense of separation. So we're going to feel the fear that goes with that. If I think that it's all up to me to protect myself against this big, wide, scary world, that it's up to me to defend myself from it, then I'm going to feel fear, and I'm going to feel like I need a set of defenses. And that's where we get on the triangle. So the triangle is actually 3 defense strategies. Mm-hmm. It's one we choose when I believe that I'm separate and therefore fearful. I'm living out of fear, and that means I got to find the problem and take it out before it gets me. And that's actually a defense strategy on the triangle. So the victim is a downward facing triangle. The victim triangle is a downward facing triangle, and it has 3 roles on it. And these are the primary defense strategies that we take on when we see problems, when we look at the world through fear, through a belief in separation. Now I need to protect myself. And so I need to either the first place we go is the victim, and it's at the very bottom. And the victim is a state of helplessness, of I'm feeling at the mercy of, that it's because of that's going to get me, it's going to hurt me, I've got to. And what the victim does as a defense strategy, when we are in victim, we're in helplessness. We are in collapse. We go into this, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to fix this, I don't know. We go there. And that is actually a defense strategy that works. Because we all know people who use helplessness as a way to get helped. And they believe that this is what they need to do. This is the only way they know how to protect themselves, is to roll over and show their underbelly. It's sort of like the animal instinct of rolling, that very thing.
Sure.
And so that's the victim role. The second position on the triangle, if it goes up to the top, you'll notice the other 2 roles are up here, and the victim is down here. These 2 are one up. This is the one down guy. And so then the other defense strategy, or the second one, is what we call the persecutor or bully, the bully mentality. And it says this, they have a belief that defense strategy is backed on the core belief, the belief in that individual, that the world is dangerous. And I just have to get you before you get me. I'm going to have to take that saber-toothed tiger out in order to protect myself, my family, my world. And so their primary mode of defense is attack. That's what they do to protect themselves. And this is, again, these are the defense strategies that come out of problem mentality, out of victim mentality. And then the third is one that we don't tend to expect. As a matter of fact, we think this is more the go-to place. This is where we think we should go, and it's the rescuer. It's the bossy helper. It's the one who really believes that the world is not safe and that I need to protect those who can't take care of themselves from those who attack. I need to get in between these 2 so that I can protect them and thereby win my right to be here. Because the way rescuers see themselves in the world, their core belief, so to speak, is that I'm not important, but you are. Your life is more important. And so I will sacrifice mine. I will sacrifice my well-being, literally my life, in order to take care of you. And this is the way I know how to connect with people. This is how I belong. Just like the victim, who, by the way, their core belief, the victim, is that I can't take care of myself. I don't know how. I don't have what it takes. And so the victim goes into collapse. So the way the rescuer protects is through control. I will just control what's around me. I will fix it. I will make it better. I will fix it according to my idea of the way it should be. And that will make everything better. And the thing about all three of these roles is that no matter where you are on that triangle, and once you're on the triangle, no matter what your starting gate might be, that's the role that best fits your life view. But no matter which one you start out, you just move around. You move around. Victims move to persecutors, move to rescuers. Although rescuers have a hard time seeing themselves as victims, they think, no, I mean, as persecutors. Well, they don't see themselves as victims at all. And they don't like to be seen as persecutors. They want to be seen as the savior, the one who makes things better, that helps. And so, again, if you look at it, and so they move around, but a rescuer in victim is the martyr, is the one who says, after all I've done for you, like, look what I've given, look what I've sacrificed, and this is the thanks I get. Mm-hmm. That's a rescuer in victim. Now in collapse, they rescued, they fixed, they did their thing, but somehow it's still not getting them what they're looking for. And so they feel victim. And then they move into persecutor by I'll show you, I'm cutting you off from here. I'm turning my back on you. I'm done with you. And maybe that's true or not. It's true until they begin to feel sorry for you again, or start feeling guilty about being so mean to you. They don't like I said, they don't like to see themselves as persecutors. And so then they move right back into rescuing. So that's the way a rescuer moves. Every one of the positions move around the triangle in their own unique way, but they all move around the triangle. Everybody ends up back in victim. And this is how we know it's victim consciousness, because when it takes you to victim, that's not a happy place to live. And we don't find ourselves finding happiness through these strategies. So go ahead.
And you can move around the triangle in quick succession too. This could happen in a matter of minutes, right?
Yes, seconds. And you can go back and forth. You can go persecutor, victim, back and forth with someone or with you. Because what happens, of course, is we invite others to play, and as soon as they react to our whatever it is, our invoking, we do the thing that will invite them to play, and they step on in whatever their role is. Then we may get waltz back and forth with them, and from persecutor to victim back a few times. Then one of us may move to rescue, and then we'll persecute that person for rescuing, and so. So, and it's also important to know that I can play two roles at the same time. I can be both a persecutor and a rescuer. Like, if I'm a rescuer, I see you being attacked by someone, and so I persecute the persecutor. I persecute the person as a way to rescue you. So I rescue you and persecute the one that I see is causing your pain. Mm-hmm. And so we can play. The other thing to know about this triangle, there's so much to know about it, but just a few pieces, is that we first of all play this triangle with ourselves. We do it first within ourselves. And we persecute ourselves. We name call ourselves. We persecute ourselves with the things we believe about ourselves. It says that we are less than. It says that this is persecution. We tell ourselves, you'll never get that job. Well, what do you think? What makes you think you can do that? You don't have what it takes. You're not enough. You can't expect them to really care about you. Blah, blah, blah. This is you in persecution mode with you. And then there's the victim in you that's going, yeah, that's fine. And you're feeling more and more depressed, more and more, and you turn in on yourself. And then you just get so down until you just decide, what the heck? I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go out and rescue myself by, and not that you think rescue. I'm gonna go out and have a drink. Matter of fact, I'll have 3. I'll numb out. That's what I'll do. I'll feel better if I just don't feel it at all. So that's a rescue. And, or I'm gonna spend money. I'll go out and spend money, or I'll take care of you. That's the way I rescue me. Is to, I don't know what to do with my life. It's a mess, but I know you should fix yours. So I'll fix your life, and that way I'll feel better about mine. This is a rescue. And so we start here, and the ultimate rescue is to blame you. when I'm down, when I'm in that loop, caught in persecuting and feeling victimized, the way I can rescue me is to project it out onto you. Oh, you're doing it to me. Not I'm doing it to me. Not I'm not worthy. You are unworthy. Look how you treat me like I don't matter, which is going to be, of course, a mirror of the way I treat me. I treat me like I don't matter. But I'm projecting that onto you now. I'm blaming you because, frankly, one of us has to be wrong here. One of us, it has to be somebody's fault, and I'd rather it be yours than mine, frankly.
Yeah.
And this is how we externalize it. And this, again, comes back to the world as a mirror. So whatever I'm judging out there is going to be pointing directly back to the judgments I'm holding against me. And that is good. That works. Why? Because how else am I ever going to know what I'm believing about me that's keeping me from feeling better if I don't project it out on you, where I can play it out? But at some point, I must, in order to really make that complete, I must look here instead of there. I must look at me and what I'm believing rather than at you and what you're doing. I must move from blame, which is the primary way off the triangle, is to give up blame and take responsibility. So,
Yeah, absolutely. A way that I've worded it in my past is you can't change using it from like I shoot video a lot, so of course I would think of it this way. You can't change the landscape, but you can change your lens that you see the landscape with.
exactly. That's exactly what this is about. It's about saying, oh, is it true, this thing I'm believing about me that is creating this emotional tone of unhappiness?
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? And that brings me to the the aid that feelings are, because they're the ones that report to us what tone we are, what tone we're thinking in. So if I'm having unhappy feelings, it's not because of what you said. It's because of what I'm telling myself that means.
Yes.
So you said blah, 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 and I took that personally and translated it to mean that I'm not important to you, or you don't care about me, or you're trying to run over me, or whatever thing that's uncomfortable that I'm telling me. I feel the pain of that and think you're the cause of it. But no, you just do what you do because you think what you think. It has nothing to do with me. But if I make it about me, the part I will make it about me will be the part of me where I'm in trouble with me, where I'm not in right alignment with who I am. So
You make such complex things when you're in the middle of them seem so simple and so graspable. That's what I really appreciate about the way that
thank you.
the way you
I
approach
love
all of
that
this.
about this work, because that's what these principles do, is they just again and again, when I find myself in a conundrum, when I find myself judging me, mad at me, whatever, I reach for those principles. I reach for and remind myself there's nothing that happens that's a coincidence, because we're vibrational, and that means that I'm only going to see and experience that which is a vibrational match for my belief system. So that's always being reflected to me. That is such good news. And when we come to this place of radical self-responsibility, that means I understand that I'm not going to see anything out here. It's all a projection. What I'm seeing out here is going to be my story overlaid on whatever it is. And frankly, I will attract to me that which I need to see based on what I believe. And when I remember that what I like to say to people, if whatever's happening in your life, look at it and say to yourself, I drew that, I attracted that, I believe that into manifestation. When it's a good thing, I did that, I drew that. When it's a not so happy thing, I drew that. What is that showing me? What can I learn from that? How can I use it to refine me, to grow me, to befriend me? Really, that's really what it's about. Come into a kinder relationship with me.
And I mean, the kinds of dynamics that you're describing, I have seen and been a part of from many angles in personal relationships, but I also see these certain kinds of dynamics playing out, especially these days in the political arena too. Seems like there's a lot of
Absolutely.
these roles being played that, and
Absolutely.
it's just a vicious spiral, to people shouting at each other and blaming and
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. So what we're seeing in the political scene and life in general, when
absolutely.
we have this collective mindset that we've been we came in. I want to say this before I get into the politics, and that what that is, we are projecting onto the political scene our own collective mindset based in fear, based in that problem mentality. And they are reflecting to us that collective mindset, and we come in to see it. I believe that this time in particular on our planet right now, in the middle of, or maybe moving out of quarantine, perhaps, I hear rumors, but with this whole thing around the coronavirus and all of this is a mirroring of the way we are suffering an epidemic. And the epidemic, I've called it an epidemic for years. Victim consciousness is an epidemic. And then I began to realize, no, it's more than an epidemic. It's a construct that we're born to participate in. We come in, and the first thing that happens, I have a metaphysical background. I grew up in metaphysics. My mother was a teacher and student of metaphysics, and so she handed me principles that I now have collected into a body of 10. And so those principles, when we believe, let's see, what was I going to say? We come in, that's where I was going. We come in with to experience victimhood. And how do we know that? Well, what person, human being, do you know that didn't go through infancy, that didn't go through what it feels like to be totally at the mercy of and dependent on someone else for their survival? Every human has had that experience. We all know what it is to feel at the mercy of. We all know what it is to feel dependent on. And we have different kinds of experience that, but we all do that. And so this is what we are supposed to. And then to beat that, to top that, we are born with the lineage stories of our parents in our DNA. It's encoded in us. So, and then they show us how to live it out. So we are every single one of us know this victim triangle. And this is why I've never had anyone and I've been teaching this for 40 years. I've never had anyone say to me, I can't, that makes no sense to me. What I hear over and over again is, I get that. I see that. Never thought of it like that, but absolutely see it. We come into experience, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is, how else are we going to learn the tools of manifestation of what it is to be a co-creator? Because we are. We're all creating the reality we believe, every single one of us. We are 100% successful at that. And we have a fear-based mentality. We are born into that, and we're projecting that out. And our political system is an example of that. If you could put the liberals and the Republicans, the conservatives and the liberals, you could put them, and I'm not here to choose sides, by the way, because I see it all as happening on the triangle, so I don't feel a need to do that. But you can put that in the rescuer, persecutor role. And now remember that let me make the point that no matter where you are on that triangle, there's not one better than the other. Persecutors are not worse than, we like to say, oh, persecutor, that's the bad guy. No. It's not divided into piles of good and bad. It's not right or wrong. It is simply the two sides of the one. And so you've got the liberal rescuer side, which has this idea that I'm here to take care of people, that I'm here to protect, that I'm here to step between that and others. And so it's a whole mindset of, I'm here to take care of and caretake, and I know what's best for, and the world needs to be a certain way, and we know the reputation we have around the world for our rescuer mentality. Countries that are ancient, 2,000 and 3,000 years old or older, we come in as Americans and with a better plan about how they need to be doing things. No wonder they're kind of going like, who do you think you are? Which is, we're seeing them in the role of victim, as helpless, as whatever. There's a little bit of resentment. I like to say the victim gets a crick in their neck from always looking up at you who have all the answers. And then resentment builds. Well, then where's the next place you're going to go on the victim, on the triangle, is persecutor. Now I'm going to show you that you are not in charge of me and that I will do what I want, blah, blah, blah. And so what we have is a whole political system that's based on our victim mentality. And of course it is, because it's a reflection of our mentality. And then we think that we need to fight it out there, when in reality, it's here where the shifts happen. It's how we see the world that will change, that shifts and changes the world, not how we make them get our point. We're right when we're now we're just no. There's nothing can move from there. It just stays locked in that fear-based mentality. And another guiding principle says that whatever we focus on gets bigger. I always think about Mother Teresa when she was asked to attend a anti-war rally, and she said, "No, thank you. I don't do anti-war rallies. I don't do that." She said, "But wait, now if you have a peace rally, call me." She understood that what you focus on gets bigger. Why would she feed anti-war? Push against it. No. Look to put your direction, your focus on what it is you do want to see. Focus there. Because what you focus on gets bigger. And I see this a lot with the liberal side of things. We spend a lot of times as liberals thinking that if I oppose it, if I fight it, if I push against it enough, well, no, you're feeding it. You're making it bigger. And the conservative side is more that sense of, I resent being controlled. I am not going to be controlled. Matter of fact, I'm going to attack. The best way for me to take care of, I hold on to what's mine and protect it. Protect what I love. And there's a lot of loyalty there. There's a lot of, I will fight you. So I will. And so then when you've got that going, so even when I've noticed that starting gate persecutors, even when they rescue, it hurts, because they will rescue in a way that is it's a gotcha as well as a give you.
Yes, with gritted teeth and resentment.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and that goes with what I heard you say something about you encapsulated in what you resist persists. And I love that. It's so simple. So simple.
Yeah. It's just based on that.
Go ahead. Well, I'm talking. That can serve, it seems, to rigidify both sides, and therefore kind of keeping this myth alive that there are sides at all. So it's like, it almost makes it I mean, I guess it depends on one's goal, but I would hope that it would be unity and understanding and communication, not to further make each person be more stubborn.
But you see, this is so we get into Shouldville. I like to say Shouldville is the hometown of the victim ego. There's no such place. It does not exist except in our mind. And yet we all have this list of how things should be. Well, that automatically is a problem mentality. Mm-hmm. Should, that's how I know it's victim vocabulary, because when we say should, we're saying there's something wrong with the way it is. It should be different. It shouldn't be that way. It should be this way. And so that is me reinforcing problem mentality. That's me, again, looking for the problem so that I can collapse, attack, or rescue, control it. And none of that works because it's all based on blame. There's a problem. And as soon as I believe there's a problem, the next thing I'm going to ask is, who did it? Whose fault is it? And now I'm into blame. And as soon as I'm into blame, I'm on that triangle. We cannot find peace there. It will never take us to peace. It will never take us to peace. And that, I think, is such an important thing for people to understand. What does take us peace is when we begin to step back and say, there's not a problem here. There's a process going on. There is a process of self-revelation going on. And if I clean up my mentality, I literally change my world. And I know this for a fact because I've experienced it. I've moved from that place of needing to blame and being able to instead say, how is this a reflection for me? How is this for me? The first guiding principle says there is no mistake, no coincidence, because we are vibrational. And therefore, everything I see is going to be somehow for me. Even the painful things are for me because they're showing me what it is I'm believing. They're showing me where it is I'm holding back. They're showing me something important. It's always the world. And we begin to treat the world as a reflecting glass, as a mirror, rather than as a problem that we need to take control of or fix or push against. And this is, it has to happen in the mind first. And then we begin. The world will reflect it. When we make the shift in here, your world reflects what you, when you move from a place of personalizing everything a family member says and using it as evidence to prove that they don't care about you, then they will do exactly the things, because you will act in ways that will invite them to treat you just that way. We teach people how to treat us. And you will teach them how to treat you as if they don't care about you. It'll be like, well, nothing I say matters anyway. And so, yeah, well, see, there you go again, just putting me down. And so, yeah, no peace. How in the world how's that ever going to resolve? But when I begin to go, oh, that's not about me. Oh, well, thank you for your feedback. And really begin to look and say, well, if I react to that thing they're saying about me, then it could only be that there's a part of me that believes that thing too. What part of me believes that I'm uncaring, unresponsive, can't get it right, whatever it is that's triggering me about what they're saying? If it triggers you, you got it. You got it. And so if you clean it up there, then the next time they do that, maybe, it's a process, you can say, oh, that's right. That's not about me. I don't have to make that. Maybe they're having a bad day. We begin to teach kids at age 4 this model, and they get it at as early as age 4.
Oh, I'm sure.
And begin to use it.
Yeah.
It is that simple. And that's how we know it's true, because the truth is always simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're the ones that get up here and complicate.
Absolutely. And they haven't experienced years of entrenchment in these stories that they've been telling themselves about how the world works or much worth they have. So how the heck do we get off this crazy merry-go-round? You mentioned going from victim consciousness to observer consciousness. How explain the process of that?
So there is another triangle. Let's just say that. So if you put an upward-facing triangle above the lower, then what you have is actually you have sort of a diamond. So this is the reality diamond. And it is you can think of it as like a yin yang, really. It's like the dark and the light. We have this victim consciousness, which you might call the dark if you wanted to, and then we have this part of us. So basically, the understanding is that we're dealing with two minds, not just one. But what most of us do when we come in and we take on the story that we've been scripted to take on, we separate from that part of us that we're born, that really never leaves. It's that part of us that I call the observer, that's always watching, that sees what's going on and is always asking the question, when we activate it, we begin to say, well, how is this for me? And what is it reflecting in me? And we began to observe and ask questions. And so rather than being married to the story that we now call me, we think that's all of who we are, this story that says I'm not enough or I'm not lovable or whatever it is, we have married it. And now with the observer, we begin to recognize that we've married it. Now the guiding principles help us do that. Now we step back from the story, and rather than blindly believe it, now we begin to question it. Like when I believe that story, and I love Byron Katie's work for this because she does something she calls the work, which is it's such a simple, beautiful tool for accessing and tapping into the observer consciousness, which is that stand back and you stand back, you tap into the observer by asking questions like, is it true, this thing I'm believing that I'm now feeling and projecting out, and that's putting me on this triangle? Is the story that I have true? When I believe it, how do I feel? How do I act? What response does that bring back to me? What am I proving to me when I believe that story and act the way I do and feel the way I do when I believe it? What am I proving? And so what that does is it helps me begin to separate from the story. And that begins to automatically connect me with the other mind, the part of me that remembers who I am truly and that never forgets, that knows that I come from the light, come from a higher frequency. And also understands that the only way I could learn how to use the tools of being the co-creator that I am is to create on my own a story about me and then discover, oh, that's an illusion. That's a story I've made up, projected on the world, and am feeling and acting into being who I am. And it might not be true at all. And as I begin to do that, I'm beginning to more and more get in touch with the other mind. So now I'm moving up to the higher triangle, which also has two wings. It's like down here, the victim triangle has two wings. It has the victim's either expressed to the rescuer or the persecutor. Up here, the observer has two wings, and that is the higher frequency of the lower range. So the rescuer and persecutor have higher frequency versions of themselves. So rather than being the rescuer who thinks the world is a problem that they need to save the world from something, or you or me or whoever they're trying to save, they begin to see themselves, they become caring friends, they become empaths, they become empowering allies. They rather than treat you like you have a problem, the caring friend is someone who's they become nurturers. The way they nurture you is to accept that your journey is for you, that where you are is where you need to be, because simply it's where you are, and therefore has gifts in it for you. And I don't need to save you from your life. I can trust your process to take you through. What I can do is empower you to see you in the way I see you, which is I see you as capable, as able to do, to learn from this, as being here for the same reason I'm here, which is to learn from your experiences that are so contrasting and difficult and challenging. That yes, your path is challenging, and that's by purpose and by design. It's not a problem. So I become that higher frequency expression of the rescuer. And then over here on the persecutor, the higher expression of that is simply knowing when to say no, being able to assert rather than aggress, being able to know when it's appropriate to say no, that no is actually the first word most children learn, age 2, is the word no. And they walk around practicing that. That's by design. That's them learning how to set boundaries so that they can experience the yeses. Because if I always say yes, then what happens is I get run over. I become a doormat. I become, it's just excess. There's no way for me to set boundaries so that I can experience the life I choose, because I'm busy saying yes to anything that comes my way. So no is a very important thing. It's a very important tool. So being able to balance that, yes, I trust your process, with this is my truth and I want to share it with you. Not you need to, not I need to blame you. Not I don't see a problem. I simply see I respect your journey and I'm going to stay out of your business. I know the difference between your business and my business. I know that when I'm in my business, or God's business for that matter, I'm out of my own. I'm not taking care of my business. When I'm over here up taking care of you by doing everything I think you need rather than taking care of myself, then the person that I'm abandoning is me. And when I abandon me, I feel abandoned. And then I look out for who it is that's abandoned me. And it's, oh, you, because you're not appreciating me. And so now you're doing it to me. That's victim. But when I begin to understand that, oh no, this is how I'm not taking care of me. What do I need to say no to so that I can say yes to something else? So when we balance those two out, again, you see the expansive and the containment, the constraint. You see both, and these are the two sides, the yin yang of life, of the mind. So that's what we do.
That's such sage wisdom. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this several times to gather it all. It's so much, but it makes so much sense to me. It resonates with me so much. I was about ready to ask you a question. What does one do if you feel like you're being drugged into somebody else's victimhood? And then I thought for a second, like, that's a very victim-esque question to ask, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Because it's assuming that you're being drugged. Is that true? You know, they're making me do this. Oh, you see, because victim consciousness has its own language.
Mm-hmm.
And it uses words like should.
Yeah.
And you made me feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so who am I making responsible for my experience of reality? And can you hear the powerlessness of that?
Yeah.
And no wonder we get mad, because we think you're keeping me from, you're making me hurt. And my question is, really? Really? You want to give that power, that right away? When in reality, it's never what they're doing. It's never what's happening outside of me that makes me suffer. It's every time what I tell myself that means. When you say that to me, or whatever you do, what am I telling myself about that? I'm making a judgment about it. I'm creating a story about it. What if it were for me? What if you were showing me something about me? How might I, then all of a sudden I'm listening with a whole different set of ears, because now when you criticize me, I recognize that, oh, this is your way of caring about me, perhaps. This is the only way. I know it's not the best way, but I've noticed that what we do is, and I've been guilty just like the rest of us, is that we decide what love we will accept based on whether it's acceptable to us. It's like, well, you're not loving me right. You're not saying the words in the way I need to hear them for me to be able to. As a matter of fact, you're saying them in a way you rather than showing me how you care in some other way, you're being critical of me. But wow, you've spent a lot of time thinking about that. There must be, so I can, instead of making that a problem, I could respond from a place of saying, well, you know what? I appreciate your feedback. Sounds like you've done some thinking about this, and I will definitely take that into consideration. I don't have to give you the power to just destroy my day. I don't have to do that if I don't want to. And if I do, whenever I'm ready to take responsibility for it, I can say, okay, what did it trigger in me? And who is that in me that talks to me like that? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
feel like,
So
no, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, so it's the path to freedom, really. This is how we set ourselves free, by becoming kinder to ourselves, not by finding who's to blame, because that will not take you to freedom
I
ever.
tr- I try to think of the toolbox that I could use when, especially if it's in the context of an intimate relationship, when, you're in the heat of a discussion that's very charged for whatever reason, how do you sort of switch frequencies and stop moving out of a place of reacting to it and moving into a place of taking a very conscious, mindful
It's a good question.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
What
think
is?
the thing is to just be patient and remember this is a process. And really, truly, when you catch yourself on the triangle, because usually it's done as a process. Like I said, in the beginning, you won't catch yourself on the triangle until several days later. Then you'll look back and go, "Oh my gosh, I was so a victim. I was so this or that."
Yeah.
And then you begin to get where you get closer and closer to it. And then one day you'll actually wake up and you'll see that I'm right in the middle of in victim triangle. I'm busy making you the problem. I'm blaming you for where I am, and you still won't be able to do a thing about it.
Sure.
It'll just be like you'll feel like, oh, because you've built up so much momentum, it's just got to. But as soon as you recognize that, you've already sort of stepped back. And so you're in a place that even though now, instead of making it a problem that you're reacting, you go, well, okay, since I'm here, what can I learn from it? Since I don't seem to be able to stop it, I must be. And as soon as you can, you reach a point. You might want to say to the person, you know what? I am so on the triangle right now. I'm so in victim consciousness. I'm so making you the bad guy and me the wounded one, or whatever it is. You just own it, and that it's sort of like you're breaking the spell. You're intervening. And as soon as you do that, you're already you're already an observer. You're already beginning to notice. Now you've separated yourself from it rather than being totally embroiled in it. And that's different in and of itself. And then there comes a time where you actually will be able to intervene on the middle of it and say, wait, let's take a time out. Or there will actually come a time as the process continues where you'll be able to see it coming, where you'll be able to notice you're triggered and contain the reaction. It's like, I know where that will take me. If I react in that way, it's not going to take us to peace. I'm not going to be able to convince them that I'm right and they're wrong. That is never going to
Yes.
happen,
If only
So
people
what I'm going to do
go. No, please go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if only people paused for 30 seconds before they posted 90% of the things that they post on social media.
So they wouldn't be so mad at themselves later when they're beating themselves up
Exactly.
for having posted it in the first place.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. And people are just ping-ponging,
Yeah.
reacting, they're just bouncing off of each
Right.
other's reactions. Yeah.
But this is all part of our process. This is how we learn.
Sure.
And so it really is being willing to give ourselves the process and not expect perfection, and not need to blame the rest of the world, or ourselves.
Yeah.
That's important,
Sure.
because we only blame. Remember, the way we start out with the triangle is internally. We persecute ourselves first. And then, in order to escape persecution of ourselves, we project out. And now I've invited you onto the triangle. Now I can externalize my whole inner battle for my viewing opportunity, for my viewing pleasure, because this will show me how it is I'm dancing with me. And when I can use it for that purpose, that's the alchemical process of transforming the darkness into light. Darkness being the prima materia of what it is, the gristly stuff, the contrast that is asking to be transformed. And this is how we do it. We just do it as a process. It's an alchemical process. We're literally shifting our consciousness. We're shifting the vibration of our thinking to a higher place.
If you could learn to do it on the fly, I mean, that's magic in and of itself right there.
It is, and you can get good enough at it where there's very little that prompts you to react because you've just questioned all of it so much and really recognize that that's not where you want to go, that you prefer peace. And I really believe I see the gift in this coronavirus uh, ordeal. I see that it's given us a timeout. It's giving us opportunity to really look at the playing field and see what we're projecting out there, and ask ourselves, how would I like it to be? And and what I notice, and because I'm working with clients every day, and what I notice during this time, I'm noticing that the virus affects each individual in the way that triggers them most. And or the way it triggers them most will be the thing that is their core story, their theme in life, their thing. And so in that way, it is such a teacher.
Yeah.
It's bringing people out. And what we have the opportunity to do is to step out in a new vibration, which will create a new world. The world is different. There's no doubt about that. It's not going to be what it was, but it can be what frequency, and will be what frequency you're transmitting. That's what you will meet when you walk out in the world. And wow, what an opportunity.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And it's interesting too, because of the nature of the phenomena. It's not like unless you have some direct contact with it, which the majority of us have not, it's rife for projecting your fears onto, or whatever it is that you're experiencing. Yeah,
exactly. And and we're being given space to process it,
absolutely,
to sit with it, to go in. And there's not so many. Well, that's not true. I was going to say for me, because I live alone, but for those who are living with their families, all that gets exacerbated and
sure,
up in our face, and whatever the dynamic is.
Don't look at it as a lockdown. Look at it as a monastic retreat.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that this, and on our planet, as a planet, I believe this is about an evolutionary step, that we are literally being given the opportunity to add another role, add that fourth role that turns that triangle into that diamond, which is that observer consciousness. And we are being given the opportunity to step up our frequency to include that, and which will balance out that allows us to balance out, to transform, to use that whole thing, so that we don't get rid of the victim triangle. We use it for its purpose, its design, which is to transform our consciousness through contrast, by showing us where it is we're living out of alignment with who we truly are, and remembering who that is. It's purposeful. It is helpful, painful as hell, but if you will notice, there is no greater motivator than pain. There's nothing like pain to motivate us to shift. And we're getting it right now. We are really, really being egged on, and I'm excited about the possibilities that I see, and the potentialities, and the new birthings that I'm witnessing in people's minds and in their hearts, as they step more fully into 100% self-responsibility for what it is they're experiencing in life. And they stop looking. And this is what, when our politicians begin to do that, we will know we have shifted our consciousness. They will be mirroring that shift to us. And I see it coming.
I love it.
Because I'm doing my part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's where it starts.
That's it.
And I think that is a fantastic and positive note to maybe draw this to a close with. Yeah.
I agree. I think that seems like a good stopping place.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lynne, for agreeing to have this conversation. And if you would tell the listeners where they can maybe find you online, or you do sort of Zoom sessions too, right?
I have Zoom sessions, individual. Mm-hmm. That's limited. I only have so much time I give to that.
Sure.
But we do it bi-monthly, twice a month, Reality Formula Live, and you can find it at realityformula.com. REALITY, formula, FORMULA.com. And that will, you'll learn more about that. When I say we, my daughter and I, my children grew up with these principles, you see, as well. And so of my 3 children, they've all worked with me on one level or another. My son has co-facilitated workshops with me for 30 years.
Wow.
My daughter is my right-hand woman, and she and I do this Reality Formula Live, where she moderates, and people join. They become members and can be live with me and her, and discussion, and also working on where it is you're stuck on the triangle. And we actually hand the tools. We show you how to use the tools to move you past that. So that's something that, and it's so affordable. We really, really want the world to have these tools. I really want people, because this is my world. And so I want all the parts of me to wake up. And so I want to hand these tools out. And Reality Formula Live is a good way to begin to get really familiar with how this works and how to use it in your life. And then I have a webpage at lynneforrest.com. I would recommend the article Faces of Victim that I wrote, that I mentioned starting out, as just a more concise understanding of the triangle if you want to understand it better. And then the Reality Formula to learn how to use the guiding principles to move out. So that would be my dual recommendation in terms
Cool.
of what I have to offer.
And where can they get your fantastic book?
Amazon.com. Just look it up. It's called Guiding Principles for Life Beyond Victim Consciousness. You can just put my name, Lynne Forrest, put an E on the end of that, Lynne, and 2 R's in Forrest, and you'll find me on Amazon.
Fantastic. I'll have all those links in the episode notes. So
Great.
Thank
you, Chris.
Yes, thank you.
This has been delightful.
Likewise.
And I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Man, that was an incredible conversation. By that I mean interview. I just kind of blabbered in between, but Lynne was laying it down without pulling any punches, and I really appreciated that. I like when it's, just it's put so clearly and concisely. It's hard to wriggle out of saying that doesn't apply to me, or I've never been anywhere on that pyramid. I know that I have for sure, all different corners at one time or another in my life. So I related to it a lot. I was able to really resonate with a lot of things that Lynne said. And her book is fantastic too. I will put a link in the episode notes. And I suggest that you buy it if you can, or check it out from your library. And go to Lynne's website, where the episode, or the link will actually be in the episode notes too. I very much appreciate everybody listening to this. If you've made it this far, I'm so glad that you're here, and hopefully you're getting something useful out of this. I know that I am. That's why I choose the people that I choose to have the conversations with. You never know how a conversation is going to go, but I haven't been disappointed. And this interview particularly was just right on the money. Amazing stuff. If you like the show and you would like to support it, there are different ways that you can do that. You can go to my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/themeltpodcast, and contribute monthly for as little as $1. I don't have an established, sort of a financial gate to get through to access different things, as far as parts of interviews that you won't get on the regular podcast or anything like that. I'm really relying on kindness. If you like what I do and you think it's worth $1 a month, that would be fantastic. The intention behind something is at least as important, if not more important, than the action itself. I think didn't Duncan Trussell say that recently? I think I saw that on Russell Brand's post the other day. Any old way. So you can do that. But also a good way of contributing is just sharing, just spreading the word. Just, sharing it with a friend or a group that you're a part of that you think might benefit from it. So yeah, that either of those ways would be fantastic. And if you have any firsthand experiences that you would like to relay via some sort of recording and send it in to maybe be used on an episode, that would be fantastic. I've done it intermittently through past Melt episodes. Sometimes if I receive a story from somebody and it has something to do with the topic of what is being talked about in the interview, I use that to introduce it. And it's worked out great. I'd love to be able to do that for every episode. So you can send those to themeltpodcast@gmail.com. And another way that you can help too is to subscribe. You can go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, subscribe there, and either leave a nice rating or a nice review. Either any of the above would work. Thank you very, very much for listening, and I hope that you like what you're hearing. I already have the next 3 shows lined out, and they're all excellent. So stay tuned, and until the next time, take care.